Backstage with Mothership on Solid Rock Radio begins now. Hear the best in new music, artist interviews, stories from the road, and more. You are now backstage, and here's your host, Mothership.
Hey everybody, Nick Detty of Wolves at the Gate joins me on a call to talk about Eulogies, Screaming, the upcoming 10th Anniversary of Captors concert. Let's go.
I have Nick Detty of Wolves at the Gate. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
Good. How's Ohio?
Ohio, yes. Central Ohio. It's great. Same farmland I always grew up on, so.
Doesn't change.
Yeah, I was going to say, cornfields don't change, so.
They just get seasons.
That's right. No, everything's great.
Well, where is everybody else based out of?
Yeah, over the years, they just kind of started moving back to where they're from, kind of thing. Like, Steve, our guitar player and singer, he's in New Jersey, with his wife and kids. He moved back there several years ago. Ben, let's see, our bass player, he used to live in Dayton, Ohio, actually. He's originally from the Dayton area-esque, sort of. But when he got married, he moved to Indianapolis to go be with his wife. Abishai, I know you know Abishai.
He's in Nashville.
Our wonderful boy. Yeah. Abishai's in Nashville. Yep. With his wife.
Yep. Abishai was playing drums for Project 86 in Germany, and I got to hang out with him a little bit. I got to sit side stage and watch him play. I love to watch him play. What a beast.
Yeah, he's an animal. Like he is one of the most creative drummers I know. I mean, man, like. Oh, yeah, like when we were writing Eulogies, he had just all kinds of ideas for a lot of these songs. Like he just made the drums just tenfold that much better. So, yeah.
One of the best drummers there is.
That's right. And then Joey, I don't know if you've met Joey yet.
I haven't.
Yeah, Joey joined the band when we were writing Eclipse. And it was like during that writing process, actually during the time when we were on the City Rock Fest tour, he had just like come into the band essentially right around that time. He lives in San Diego with his wife and kids, and that's where he was born and raised. He's lived there, a long time. So, but yeah, he is in San Diego, and he was giving us a lot of input, and just like Steve was bouncing a lot of ideas off of him. And that eventually just turned into like, do you just want to join the band? Like, because Joey's a phenomenal guitar player, obviously. Like, he just, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So.
You've been with them since 2012?
Yeah. Actually, I did my first tour with them in 2011. That's kind of technically when I joined the band. The band had just gotten signed to Solid State in September of 2011. And that's when, that's obviously when they bought the EP, We Are the Ones, to get re-released. But yeah, those were kind of like the trial runs for me, just to see how everything went. I was 18 at the time, so I was just like, I have no experience touring. I've been in a couple bands at this time, but like nothing crazy.
So how does one get the position of unclean vocals? Somebody just give you a call and say,
right.
Hey, do you do unclean vocals? He already knew you, or how did that happen?
I've been screaming since I was 14. I've been through a couple of bands, actually 3 exactly. But the third band that I was in, which is the band right before Wolves, the last show we ever had, which was like an unofficial last show or whatever, we played a show with a band called Though She Wrote. They were having their farewell show, and they asked us to open it. And then the direct support to the show was Wolves at the Gate. Which is hilarious, though, because before this show, I had never heard of Wolves at the Gate before. Had no idea who they were. They were very big in the Ohio local band scene kind of thing. But they weren't really like the local band, because they played all kinds of shows, So anyway, Steve told me this later, but they watched our set, the local band, the opener, they watched our set. Then, Wolves at the Gate got on stage later on, and it was actually me listening to Steve share the gospel. And at this point, I had, I'd grown up in church and stuff like that, but I never actually professed to be a believer. And I the Lord had not yet opened my eyes to the truth of the gospel. Yeah, it was crazy because I was listening to Steve share the message, and I just I came up to him later, towards after the show, and I said, hey man, I was really interested by what you said up there, and just, it was crazy seeing people now who come up to us and say hey, what was it that you guys were talking about? You shared a message, but God beckoning to us and calling us out of love and just to help us come and find peace, and come and see the true beauty of the gospel, which is Christ. And what is that all about? I asked that same question to him, and Steve shared the gospel with me. Like, we went into this huge, long conversation. But in the middle of that conversation, he was like, wait, you were in the first band, right? And I was just like, yeah. He's like, dude, your vocals are sick. Like, it like started off like that. And like, we just, kept in touch and whatever, we just kind of went back and forth. And he actually hit me up. Like, this was like, I think a week and a half or so later, he hit me up on Facebook and he was just like, hey man, like Colin, our original vocalist, he's like, Colin just had another baby. Like, he can't tour, but we're getting ready to get signed. Like, is there any way you could like fill in or try out or anything like that? Like, we would love to, see how things go. And, it's just kind of history from there. Yeah. Which is crazy to think about, because that was 11 years ago now, like to the date almost. When I had started practicing with them, it was about September, October when I started doing all that. So, because we left for our first tour in November. Time flies.
So you said you started screaming when you were 14.
Yep.
How did you discover you could scream, and who made you scream? What inspired you to scream? Your mom, or was it another artist?
No, it was definitely another artist. Surprisingly enough, trial and error is what told me that I could scream. No, it's always something I'd always done. Like, I've grown up listening to like just a plethora of music. My dad was a big 80s classic guy. Like, he loved AC/DC. He loved The Doors. He loved Poison, stuff like that, all your classics. And he also loved listening to newer music. We're talking like 2007, 2008, 9, those kind of eras. Like, he loved to like listen to like Slipknot and Disturbed and Korn and like all these other super heavy, like influences and stuff like that. So, but my dad was actually the one that showed me that music, oddly enough. And one of the bands that ended up leading me to was For Today. Obviously, they were huge in the Christian metal scene. It was a big influence because I heard the way that Matty screamed, and I thought it was so sick. I was just like, man, like, his vocals are incredible. Like, they sound awesome. Which just led to all kinds of other things, Memphis Mayfire, Sleeping Giant, which eventually got me into bands like Blindside and just the rabbit hole of metal and rock music. You know what I mean? So, because it's like when you start with a couple bands, like, you don't stop. You don't stop there. It just keeps going, I don't know how it came to be that I didn't like destroy something, but I would just like listen to vocalists and the way that they did things and just try to mimic that. Which I would, let me, disclaimer, I would never, ever, ever recommend that to anybody who wants to try screaming.
Don't do what I did.
Yeah, exactly. Being a vocalist now, like, and understanding, the way that your body works and the way your vocal cords work and all of that, like, I would never tell somebody to ever do that. That is the quickest way to destroy your voice. But yeah, I genuinely believe that God had a purpose for what I'm doing now. And obviously I never would have seen that, but it's crazy to think that like maybe he did protect me from getting injured or any of those things other than like a sore throat or something. But yeah, it was just trial and error for the longest time until the first record I ever recorded with Wolves is when I actually started to really dig into like getting voice lessons and, tried to actually like take care of my voice and perfect it and all that.
Cultivate that.
Yeah.
Sure. I've heard that Steve does a lot of the lyrics and that sort of thing. How does that collaboration work to put music together?
Steve is a powerhouse when it comes to musicians. I honestly like, and this isn't just to toot his horn, but like, he is one of the most incredible and talented dudes I think I've ever met. He just cranks out demos like it's nothing. I mean, just because he's that driven, like he is just that inspired. Like if he gets something in his head, like he wants to put it down, like he wants to at least get it out and hash it out and rehash it and, just go back on it over and over again until he feels like it's at a point. So yeah, Steve will crank out a demo and he'll just send it to us. He's got an awesome home studio. It has a lot of guitars, that he can try out, and he's got a great vocal setup and everything. So he'll just track a full demo and he'll just shoot it into the Dropbox and we'll just kind of all start, picking at it a little bit, and, not just bad things, like good and bad things. Like we'll say like, oh, I really like this, but I don't think this works really well. And then we'll just kind of postal service it. Like we'll just keep going back and forth, and we'll just keep doing it until we like where it's at. For the majority of our music is lyrically and like vocally. Yeah, Steve has had like a very, very large input and influence on all of that, where, like my input is mostly towards like vocal screaming patterns and stuff like that and all kinds of other stuff. But like over the years, it's been awesome to get to work with Steve, because it's become like a back and forth with him and it's just been a great learning tool for me, because, like I said, I think he's just so much better of a writer than I am, so I have a lot of trouble sometimes writing vocal patterns or whatever. And Steve just thinks so outside the box, on a lot of stuff, that it sparks really good content for us.
You're listening to Backstage with Mothership on Solid Rock Radio. Out Performance Shop is a proud supporter of Solid Rock Radio. They specialize in retail and wholesale of automotive, high-performance, racing, and off-road products. They also carry a variety of accessories from remote control cars to rock and roller multi-carts. On the web at outperformance.com.
What about lyrics? What does that process look like?
Lyrically, like I used to write a lot of lyrics for like some of the other bands that I was in, but it's been more like not productive. It's been better in my opinion. It's like having a conversation with him and just telling him where I'm at, or, what's on my heart, or, or like what's running through my brain at that moment, or, stuff like that. And we just kind of jot all these things down. And it's crazy, like how artistic he is when coming up with this stuff. Drifter is actually a perfect example. On Eclipse, Drifter was a song that was written over the course of a few conversations that he and I and Joey had in Joey's backyard at his like little fire pit. And it was talking about a lot of the darkness that I let just kind of stew in my brain and like in my heart, like with regret and having nightmares about certain things, and just like having all of this turmoil and dread just in my chest all the time about just things that I've like felt like I've left unsaid, or that I've left unfinished, or, people that I've hurt that I've never reconciled, those kinds of things, and just like where my heart was at with that. And then that was like, Steve turned that into a way to like translate that into a message of hope and peace and sharing the gospel through it. And like that right there will always forever be one of the strongest examples for me as like how he just turned something around like that. And it makes me, and all it did was make me send him more stuff like, well, hey, I was thinking this the other day. And, he's like, oh, hey man, that's a great idea. Yeah, I got some notes down, and we just go back and forth like that. So yeah, so it starts out with Steve, obviously, like, 80-85%. And then, like, we all kind of start to weigh in. But Steve is such a loving dude. Like, he doesn't see it like that. He just sees it as, like, no, like, let's write some jams. Let's write music. He wants to write something cool.
You and Steve have got to be in sync with those clean and unclean vocals, or nothing's going to work.
It's funny you say that, because like we just had a conversation the other day about like recording methods. We had been doing stuff on our own, with some of the more recent stuff, like Lowborn. Lowborn was just us. Lowborn was me going to a guy here in Ohio just to track them. Like you didn't even have to edit them, nothing, just to come and track and get all our ideas down. He just like texted me and he goes, I have very quickly found that the best method for yours and I's vocals is for you and I to do our vocals, not put you in with a producer. Like, I feel most comfortable and the most in sync with Steve and our music when I'm tracking with Steve. Mm-hmm. Just because like Steve and I know what to get out of each other. He's one of my best friends. Like seriously, in music, in life, in relationships, in church, and everything. Like he has been my brother. And Steve has taken care of me more times than I can remember, and he has saved my life more times than I can remember, or that I could count. And I owe a great debt to Steve. And because I love him so much as a brother, like I know that we will always forever remain friends. And it's only in that even more so that I'm so excited that we get to work together and get to, make music together. Yeah, he and I have come to a place where we just click so well vocally that, yeah, I couldn't see it any other way.
Love story better than Twilight.
I have not seen any of those at all.
I haven't either.
God, so long.
Just memeing here.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the bromance though. Well, you guys came off that pandemic, hit the ground running.
Yep.
Eulogies. I would say arguably one of the best albums of 2022.
Well, thank you. We think so too, but that's always up for debate, I guess, for people. But
well, on the Grizzly Awards Facebook page about fans' favorite albums of 2022, Wolves Eulogies is coming up quite often in the comments.
That's awesome.
It's a very emotional album.
Mm.
I think you should be pretty proud of it. You want to give me some background on it and how it came about?
Yeah, I mean, the title of the album, just comes from, the theme of the album. I mean, it's a collective depiction of the eulogy of Christ, because, eulogy's talking about when the disciples were miserable that Christ was going to the cross, and they didn't understand why Christ went to the cross. But that's why at the end of the song is the, that revelation, in a sense, that says, when they realize, when their eyes were opened and they were shown the glory of Christ in his resurrection and that he had saved them, that was saying, it's called a beautiful eulogy. That's why beautiful eulogy is used at the end of the song. I don't know. Every record, it seems like it's another step. You know what I mean? It's another step up. Yeah. It's always a chance to outdo what we did before. And Eulogies by far, as we've probably said every record at this point, genuinely, by far is probably the closest, most genuine Wolves of the Gate record I think I've ever heard us make. It is the most authentic us. It is the most just raw version of Wolves of the Gate. And I think going from there, I think it's just only going to get crazier. But yeah, you keep getting to the point as a musician where you're just I just want to keep writing stuff that I want to hear, not what I think is going to do well on the radio or, whatever, songs that I'm inspired by and songs that I want to write. That's, lyrically too, that's where a lot of that kind of resides, is just, this is show up and show out kind of thing. It's just we want to be the realest version of us every record, and just to be the most honest version of us. I don't think that'll ever stop. It just, this time it came out in a more intense way, and I think that's awesome. Weight of Glory is the most metal song that we've ever written ever. So
I love that song.
And I was gonna say, and it's my favorite. So it gave the monster a chance to come out of his cage a little bit and, just get crazy on it. But, yeah, I don't mean to make it sound typical or whatever, but it is another Wolves of the Gate record where it's just okay, let's just put everything forward and see what comes out. Let's just keep rehashing it until we get a good version of it, essentially.
So Weight of Glory is your favorite, but if you had to throw every song away except for one on the album, which one would you keep?
Hitting me with the tough questions.
Right, because it's not necessarily always your favorite song, right?
Right, yeah. Yeah, there's been times where, in previous records where, in Eclipse, Face to Face is not my favorite song, but I would want to keep that song just because it's so good. No, if I had to throw out everything and keep one, I'd probably have to say I would keep Peace That Starts the War, honestly. Just because it's I think that's the most Wolves of the Gate song that we have. I know that sounds dumb, but it's just when it comes to the best song that I think we've created on the record that introduces a new version of us, that is a new element, something that has evolved, but it still sounds like us. And it's just still crazy heavy at the same time, all encompassing, at the same time. Peace is one of those songs for me. It's definitely not my favorite, but it is the one that I definitely have the most fun out of some of them playing live. So, yeah.
Now, that wasn't your latest single, was it?
I think the last one we did on the record was Dead Weight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we did Dead Weight because we did Lights and Fire and then Peace and then Dead Weight.
Okay.
Well, so Shadows too. We also did Shadows because that was actually the first one, I think.
Okay, well, I won't give you any more questions to make your head hurt. But then you guys put out the live sessions. Tell everybody about the live sessions.
Yeah. So we were actually shooting music videos for Eclipse at the time. But we had been seeing the trend go around of people doing studio sessions and stuff, but they're just raw live takes. And we just kind of wanted to take that and just spice it up a little bit and just make it just like us playing a live set. You know what I mean? Like just, with obviously with COVID being such a huge factor, and like it's not like we could go out and go to a radio station and do a live set or a show or whatever. We just kind of made it our own, and we're like, well, we're shooting music videos. Let's also let's shoot a live set as well. So, and then just broke that up by song. But I mean, every song that you see, like that's a full playthrough. Like we did all of those songs together. So like we do a regular set. So yeah, which was a lot of fun because that's like the antithesis of like raw, like heavy music. Yeah. So
yeah. Just like being at the show.
yeah. I was going to say that's like the most, what do you call it? Like most like the show experience while listening to it on a recording, essentially that you'll hear from us, so, but yeah, those were a lot of fun.
Yeah. I like the rawness of that kind of thing.
Yeah. It feels real. Like it feels authentic, like, I mean, obviously you can listen to a song and you can be into it and it's it's enthralling and it like, stirs up emotion, but just like then your favorite band plays, your favorite songs, but you get to hear them how they really sound like when they play live without having to go to a show, and I think people get a huge kick out of that.
Check us out on Facebook at I'm with Mothership.
Are you guys already looking at the next album?
Yeah. I mean, we've got, we're in the writing process. I mean, we're pretty much as soon as the album is done and it's printed and we're like out the door with it and it's released, we're already working on the next one. So we've never been a band that's always had that like break period where they're just like, okay, we're gonna hang out for a little bit, play some shows, and then like maybe here in a couple months we'll start writing. Like, no, like that's not how Steve's brain works. That's thankfully
Steve is a music writing machine, so
that's right. That's right. Yeah,
there's no off button.
There is no off button. I think also to a fault too. Sometimes he would probably say, yeah.
I mean, what would happen to him if he had to stop? He might blow up.
There's no way. I've asked him that before, just in a like passing. I was like, do you think you'll ever stop writing? Like, you'll just kind of be like, nah, I'm not interested in writing music or anymore or whatever. I just want to jam or something. He's like, no. He's like, as long as I can still play, like, I'm going to write something. Like, it's just who I am. And I was like, all right, fair enough. That's a fair answer. So, yeah, I mean, we don't really have like a projection or anything, for any, like a new album or anything. But yeah, I mean, it's the demo phase, just like any other beginning phase. It's just hashing things out and trying to figure out where to go next.
All right. Throwing out some breadcrumbs. Let us know that you've not forgotten us, that you're still moving on.
No, we couldn't if we tried.
Good to know. All right. Coming up, 10th anniversary of Captors. Well, everybody's jealous that it doesn't live in Ohio.
Trust me, I've seen the comments. Yeah.
Oh my God. How dare you?
The pitchforks and torches. I know.
Tell us about it.
Yeah. I mean, it is really exciting. It's the record that started Wolves at the Gate, like the first official record. We had We Are the Ones and we re-released that. But I mean, here we are with like the same core people, 10 years later. And those core people were on that record, which I guess at this point is just me, Ben, and Steve. We got some people coming out. We got some old members,
Oh.
Yeah, coming out to rock out with us, so it's going to be, it's going to be an awesome emotional time. It's the first record we ever put out as a band on a label. And, it's the first time, it personally, like for me, like it's a big deal because it's just like, this is the first record I ever recorded, legitimately. Like it's my first time I was ever in a real studio, just everything, first band that ever did anything. I thought legitimately when I was 18, I thought my career as a musician was dead. I thought it was just like a local band phase, and when this was put in my path, I couldn't believe it. So it's just like, this is like the first solidifying piece of art, that like we ever had, or we ever had as a band. So, yeah, it's November 26th. We are playing it front to back. And I'm not going to lie, that is exhausting to think about.
Yeah.
12 songs, and every single one of them is a rager. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's going to be
back
crazy.
when you had rager energy.
Yeah, well, hey, I am not going to disagree with that because, man, like, I went back and I had some of the from the CD release show that we did at the Newport here in Columbus. I looked at some of those pictures. I mean, yeah, we're talking like 10 years ago, and 100 pounds ago, and all these other underlying factors. I was just like, man, like I really got to kick it into gear if I'm going to survive that set.
You run some marathons.
I'm gonna have to start doing some crazy cardio because like it's funny because like as our music has progressed, like obviously like his and I's dynamic becomes a little bit more like it seems more purposeful a little bit, like it seems more artistic and like a little bit more like I don't know, like just better in my personal opinion, just because it's like it's more creative. With Captors,
collaborative.
Yeah, it seems more of a back and forth between he and I. Yeah, with Captors, it is just very much a metal band, like one sings and one screams, and they do it all the time as much as they can every single moment they get, and I'm just like, oh gosh, yeah, I just...
you might lose that 100 pounds that night.
I'm probably going to. I will be... probably drenched in sweat because the place we're playing is called Ace of Cups, and it's like it's a relatively decently sized venue, but it is a little bit more of like a close, like, yeah. So it's just going to be
sweat. That's holy water, brother.
Yes.
Well, I see you're going to be with my friends Convictions. I love Mike and Zach, some of my favorite people. So awesome. I know it's going to be a great show.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to ask you this. Tour snacks. What do y'all like to eat?
Not junk, if we can afford to.
Anymore, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Well, we usually try to go for like the, this is where Joey shines. Joey is a very active, like very just very health conscious. He's very, very, very in shape. Like he's a great dude, but he's just been doing it so long, and he like, his mind is always geared towards like, hey, let's go get a case of water. Let's go get some like Nutri-Grain bars, some, or something like, let's go get some, nuts or some sunflower seeds or something like that. So anything that is actually halfway decent for you usually is what we find in the van. Sometimes it's chips, but it's not like, candy bars or like soda or like anything like that. It's just like, especially like with Steve and I's voices, like we just can't do it. Can't do it. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, like sunflower seeds are my always go-to, especially when I'm driving.
Yeah, that's a big one too.
Yeah, keep the brain focused, and yeah. So, water. I mean, we try to keep it relatively healthy. We can't really afford to gain any more weight.
So whatever healthy things Joey puts in the van, that's what you eat.
Well, not always, because he's put some things in the vans before that I'm just that we're not stoked on. And we're like, dude, you need to get that out of here. He put sardines in the van one time.
What?
Yeah, but they were like canned, so they were like in preservatives. You know what I mean? But it was just like one of those things that like, I was like, dude, as soon as you open that can, it's going to reek in this van. Which, don't get me wrong, it is canned fish that we're talking about, but obviously fish is really good for you. It's just the fact that you had canned fish in the van.
You have to eat that outside the van.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, dude, as soon as you open that, this van is going to smell terrible. He's like, it's okay.
Be a psycho.
No, he's a little bit of a health nut, but in a good way.
Okay. I appreciate you so much, and I hope to see you soon out on the road. Since I can't see you in Ohio, you'll have to have another show somewhere.
Sometime soon. Yeah, I don't know. We don't have anything planned. I'm sure there's stuff on the table. We're just trying to plan it out. So,
yeah.
But yeah, thanks for having me. This was a blast. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, I enjoyed it, and we'll have everybody on next time. It was good to get to know you a little bit better, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Cindy.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more great music and check out my blog page on the Solid Rock Radio website for my guests' social media links. If you've missed any of my past interviews, you can find them uploaded to podcast.solidrockradio.org. Have a wonderful week, and let's be kind to one another.